Alright, this took too long to come out, so let's not waste any time and get to my favorite games of 2018, starting with the games that didn't quite make the list. Yeah, a few games didn't quite make the list, but I still feel they're worth mentioning. But before any of that, let's actually talk about the games that got remade this year, or in 2018, that are honestly worth your dollars. And in one case, kind of, sort of, not really, but still worth mentioning. Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. Street Fighter V has had quite an odd story, and I'm not even talking about its story mode. Basically, the game wasn't really well received when it came out, but the Arcade Edition is honestly a really good upgrade to this game. While it doesn't completely redeem Street Fighter V, it does make the game better and more playable, but the game still isn't as good as 4 and still has some of its more bullshit systems, so it's not 100% perfect, but at least it's better than, well, the original version. Bayonetta 1 and 2 on the Switch. With Bayonetta 3 on the horizon, it's a good time for people who missed out on Bayonetta 1, which is a lot of people, on Bayonetta 2, which is more people, to, actually play the games on a console that actually has life to it. I still love you, Wii U, I'm sorry. But seriously, both games are great, and coming together in a bundle package is even better, even though Bayonetta 2 was a download-only thing, but still good to actually have it and only pay for one game. On top of that, being on the Switch makes it portable, and that just makes these games even better together. So again, if you haven't played either Bayonetta 1 or 2, I say get this up. You don't have an excuse anymore. Bayonetta 3 looks like it's going to be great because it's more Bayonetta, and more Bayonetta has never been a bad thing so far. The Mega Man and Mega Man X Legacy Collections. Man, it's really good to see Mega Man climbing out of that pit it's been in for the last several years, even if Legends 3 is not a thing yet, or will never be a thing. Man, Walnut's still stuck on that fucking moon, isn't he? And while the classic series has a whole new title, the X series just gets a re-release, and that's just fine. I would honestly prefer the X series stays where it is, even though I do want to see a new X game. Maybe just remake one of the older games with a newer engine or something. In terms of the plot, I think the X games should stay where they are. Well, Capcom, maybe make a new X game, but, keep the story the same, because the plot of the X games ended up a total crapshoot. Especially once you add the Zero games in there. Seriously, what the hell is going on with that plot? The World Ends With You on the Switch. Man, am I happy to see this game re-released on something that's not a tablet, although the Switch is very tablet-esque. Nevermind. As one of the best DS games, and I'll say it again, as one of the best DS games to ever be released, it's good to see this game see new life and potentially sales strive up for a sequel maybe, or more references to Kingdom Hearts at the very least. Honestly, if I have any major downsides, it's the fact that the motion controls are really odd to get into and somewhat difficult to use. No joke, the game kind of made my wrist start hurting after a while using the motion controls, so I don't recommend that. I honestly do recommend playing it in handheld mode, or risk hurting your wrist if you don't want to. Again, this game is excellent and it's a fun game. I do recommend it if you haven't played this game and you don't have a way to get to the DS version of the game. But, honestly, I just want the sales of this game to rise up a bit, so maybe Square will give this franchise a bit more love. That's all my hope is. And finally, we have Hyrule Warriors, also on the Switch. This is a really fun spin-off, and it's really good to have the content that was released on the 3DS version on a much larger screen with more horsepower. It's just a lot better to play this version than the 3DS version and still get that content, such as Linkle and all that. Gotta be honest, I was just looking for another excuse to go through this very, very long game once again. Seriously, this game is so freaking long. It's gonna take forever to re-unlock all the characters again. So yeah, if you got time, I recommend this game. Now then, let's move on to the honorable mention section of this honorable mention section. Yes, it's very convoluted, but it makes sense in its own way. Detective Pikachu. Now this game is a fun little spin-off that, while not quite at the level of a Phoenix Wright or Professor Layton, it at least tried, and was headed in the right direction, at least in its terms of its own game. And there's even a movie coming out later this year based off the game, so that's a little something. So if you want to see where the movie gets inspiration from, I say take a look at this game. Top of that, it took like 2 years for it to actually come out in America, because this was originally released on the 3DS in Japan only, so that's another thing. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, torn the DLC. I was really conflicted on this one, mainly because it's DLC. I mean, it's literally called the Torna DLC. Also, I say it's called Torna the Golden Country, but I'm calling it Torna DLC. But it's not that expensive, and you can actually buy a physical version of this separate from the main game. So I don't feel right putting it on the list because it's technically DLC, but because it's so expansive from the original version that it's practically its own game, I'm just gonna dump it on honorable mentions and be done with it. If you like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, then this comes recommended if you haven't picked it up yet. So yeah, more Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is never a bad thing. Now the long wait for number 3 begins. Man, it's great to see Mega Man back in action, and while it didn't quite make the list because I honestly haven't played Mega Man 11 yet, it's still really cool to see, and hopefully this starts a resurgence of more Mega Man games. Seriously, my number 9 was terrible. We need Mega Man back in action, and I'm not talking about that cartoon either. I'm talking about the games, buddy, the games. So, Soul Calibur is back from where it was during the whole Soul Calibur V incident. We don't talk about that. And this one here is basically a franchise reboot, so, you know, that's fine. Not where I would have gone, but, you know, reboots are all fine. Run out, reboot everything. Anyway, the classic Soul Calibur gameplay is back with that, you know, weapon-based 3D arena combat thing, and ringing out your opponents when you want to be a cheeky bastard. And the character creator is even more expansive than it was in the last game, which is really good, allowing for more race customization and all that kind of stuff. And with even some pretty good DLC announced. I mean, one was an obvious character, but seriously, 2B from Nier Automata showing up? That's just amazing. What the hell? And they already have The Witcher in there in the base game. Seriously, Soul Calibur, you're doing really good with this DLC. Maybe another random guest character and you'll make up for 5 completely. And finally, Deltarune. Toby Fox is really good at what he does, even though I don't know exactly what that is. Making music, developing games, what else can this guy do? Can he draw? Anyway, he's back with a new game, or at least a demo for a game. I'm honestly looking forward to the full release of Deltarune, whenever that is, but this little demo that he released randomly for free is just an amazing way to advertise this upcoming game, and at least give fans a taste of what we can expect in this new game, and hopefully we'll get the full release soon, but no rush, Toby, take your time. As long as it's still that same Toby Fox quality, that's all that really matters in the end. And that, my friends, is the end of the recommendations that didn't quite make the list. Next time we'll actually be starting the actual list. I am a bit of an insane person if you can't see what I mean there. But anyway, next time we'll begin the actual list, and I hope to see you all there. That's be coming out tomorrow. Until then,